Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Hanson here. So we're going to be working on a verification system, but this time we're going to be using role reactions. I've done like probably two or three different types of authorization slash verification systems, and I figured I would want to do one with reactions. The way I want it to work is whenever the user joins a server, it's going to show an embed message with like their stats, and it'll be like a good visual way to see like when they join the server. And there's going to be like a thumbs up and thumbs down reaction, and if an authorized user like a moderator gives a thumbs up, that means they're going to be approved and they're going to see the rest of the server. And if they give a thumbs down, then we can either do things like kick them or tell them that they did not get approved, right? Anyways, so right now I'm currently in my directory right now. I just created a new directory. I initialize it with a package.json file. I installed my dependencies, but I haven't fully set up the entire project yet. I'm going to be doing this completely from scratch. So I will leave a code in the description in case you guys want it. But I highly urge you guys not to copy and paste and actually just watch the whole video and learn from it. Okay? And the code will actually be released probably like a week from now. So you guys are going to have to, well, I'm just kidding. Anyways, so this video is probably going to be very long. I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but let's see. Probably not going to edit it, to be honest with you. Let me do this. Let me create a folder. And what I'll do is inside this folder, I'm going to create a bot.js file. And I'm going to create my .env file. And I'm going to go ahead and get my bot token real quick. So let me grab my bots. Let's see. Regenerate token. Always regenerate your token if you feel like someone has access to it, or someone has stolen it, or it's been compromised. Alright, so I have my token, and my bot should be in my other server. Let me go ahead and double check. Let's see. Yep, right over here. Perfect. Okay, cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just get started with the basics. So I'm going to go ahead and import the client class directly from the discord.js library. I'm going to go ahead and create a new instance of the client class, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to log the bot in, and we're going to use environment variables, so process.env bot_token. What I'm doing here is I'm basically referencing the global process object, and the global process object has a property called .env, or env, and that is also an object as well. And then bot_token is our environment variable. And since we're using .env, it's going to load up all of our environment variables inside this file into memory. Okay, so in order for that to actually happen though, we need to import .env. Okay, now we're not importing the entire module just to store in a variable. We're just going to import it like this and call the config function, and that's it. Okay, so hopefully that part makes sense. So this will log our bot in successfully. I'm going to go ahead and listen to the ready event. Okay, and this is just going to be a way to check to see if the bot has logged in. So, has logged in. Okay, this is very straightforward stuff, and we're just using a template string over here with string interpolation to tell in the console when the bot has logged in. Okay, so I'm also going to set up a simple start and dev script. I always do this, well, most of the time I do, just to make it a lot simpler to run our app. So I'm going to set up a nodemon. I already have nodemon installed. Now you don't need nodemon, and actually this should be a /source/bot. You don't need to use nodemon, but I would suggest using it only for development, not for production. Okay, basically if you need to restart your bot after a change, nodemon will do that automatically for you. It works the same way as node, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So okay. Now, a lot of people always get confused about this. They try to run their bot directly inside the source folder, so I'll show you an example. What happens is they try to go inside the source folder, and then they do node bot.js. Now, it's going to tell you that it says invalid token. The reason why this happens is because we're using environment variables. Okay, and the environment variables is basically only going to get loaded if where you're running the file is in the same directory as the .env file. In our case, we are not in the same directory as the .env file. We're actually inside the source folder, so we need to make sure we're running the code from the main root directory, so outside the source folder, but in the same directory as the .env file right over here. Okay, if you want to run it in the source folder, you would have to move the .env file inside the source folder. Okay, a lot of people always get confused about that, so I figured I would show you guys how that works. But But if I run it from here, it's going to go ahead and log the bot in perfectly. Okay, so our bot's logged in. Now let's get to the real stuff, the real coding. So what we want to do is we want to listen to the guild member join, or not guild member join, it's guild member add. So client on guild member add. And this is going to be an event that is going to be triggered whenever a member joins your server. So with every single event, there's always going to be a callback function. This is the handler, okay? Because events are asynchronous, so we use callbacks to handle them. That's how the environment of Node works, okay? It's almost everything's based on callbacks, okay? And even promises also require you to use callbacks to handle, you know, the .then and .catch functions. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and simply, I forgot to mention that the parameter is the guild member object, and in case if you're ever confused, you can always look at the documentation. You can go over to client and you can look at the events, okay, and you can look for the event that you want to handle. If you click right over here, not message direction, add guild member add, you can see the parameter member, the guild, or not the guild type, the type is a guild member, and it tells you what it is, okay? And if you click on it, it will give you a bunch of properties and methods. Anyways, let's move that over. So I think all we really need to do is we're just going to generate an embed message and send it into the channel. So what I'll do is I'll just simply say const embed equals new message embed, okay? And I'll just simply say set description, or not set description. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a field, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll just simply say their username. So right over here, this is the name of the field, and then we want the actual value. So the actual value to be in the field. So I'm going to simply just do member.user.tag. Okay, so I'll be the user's username with their discriminator. And I'll also do an add field for their ID. So ID or user ID. And that's just going to be member.id. Okay. And I'll also do, let's see what else, add field, created date. So this is their account creation. So we can do member, I think it's .user.created at. And I think I probably want to do to local string. And then we'll do join date. So member.joined at. To local date string, or not, sorry, to local string. Okay, now notice how over here with the created at, I only did member.user instead of member.created at. So the reason why is because, well, first of all, let me actually check if my Visual Studio Code will stop being annoying. Okay, so it seems like with member you can actually also reference that as well, I think. But let me see, created at. I don't know, it seems weird. I can't really directly. I think this is just a timestamp though, I'm not sure. But I think you can reference it on member. Let me actually check the documentation. Created at. I don't think member actually has that property. I'm looking at documentation. I don't actually see it. So yeah, I don't think you can actually reference it at it. But it makes sense because you don't necessarily encapsulate like created at, because that's when the actual user account is created at, right? And the user doesn't necessarily mean that they're a member of the guild, so it makes sense to encapsulate that data with the user object rather than the guild member. Okay, it makes sense for the guild member to have the joined at, because that's when the member actually is joining the server. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I know, but don't worry too much about it though. And I think this honestly is more than enough. Okay. And what we want to do is, well, first, before we continue, I'm going to go ahead and add the async keyword in front of this callback function. This is going to allow us to await promises, which we're going to be doing in just a sec. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply say const message. And what I want to do is I want to send a message to a particular channel. But how do I know which channel to send to, right? There's a bunch. Well, this is where you need to select the channel. Now, for this tutorial, we're only going to use one guild. It's not going to work on multiple different guilds, so I'm not going to really use a database. But what you can do is you can actually select which channel you want the user to, or not the user, the message to be sent to. So you can create like a lobby channel. That's what I do. I'll just use general, so I'll get the ID. And I'll actually just get the channel up here. So const channel equals client.channels .cache.get. So we're getting the channel directly from client.channels. And the reason why we're not getting it from guild.channels is because, well, client actually, it caches every single channel. So you can just directly get it from there. Okay. But of course, you always want to make sure you check to see if channel is truthy, because the guild member, the owner, or whoever may have deleted the channel. So you always want to double check. Okay, so if that's true, then we'll send the message to this channel. So channel.send. And notice how it's actually not giving us the send method. The reason why is because I think it's treating this as a like general like channel itself, not a guild channel. So instead, we can actually just do this. I'll probably just do member.guild.channels, and that should fix it, I think. No, it's treating it as a let's see. Seems like it's treating it as a just guild channel rather than an actual text channel. But this will be okay. Like this will be okay. If it was TypeScript, we would have to cast this to an actual text channel. Okay. And now I'm going to send the embed. And right after I send the embed message, I'm going to react twice. So message.react. Okay. And it's very weird that it's not showing up the types, but that's fine. So we're going to react with 2 Unicode emojis. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get the emojis. So I want a thumbs up. And what you can do is you can get the emoji, but prefix it with a backward slash, and it'll look like that. Same thing with a thumbs down. So I can do that. Okay, now I can copy them and paste them in here. You need to make sure you put the slash to get the Unicode. If you don't do that, it's not going to work. Okay, so if I do this, no, should work just fine. Okay, and yeah, let's just test this out before we continue. I don't want to do too much all at once. So I'm going to go ahead and get my alt account to join the server and then leave. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so I just joined, and you can see that it says my username, the ID, and then the created date. Okay, now you can see that it was created on this date, and we just joined literally just now. It's currently 3:22 a.m., so about a couple seconds ago. Now we have the reactions. Now obviously we want to make sure that we are able to react to it. Okay, so this is where you're going to want to, obviously for more advanced situations, you probably would want to use a database for this. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just hard code some values. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hard code some values so we can pretend like we have all of our, you know, fake data that just got retrieved from a database. Okay, it's not really that difficult to add everything to a database. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just do this const roles, and I'll just provide an array of roles that can use this system. So what I'll do is I'll simply say if you have the moderator role, then you can use it. Okay, and we're not checking for permissions, we're checking for roles. So even if I am the owner, okay, which you can also add that as a check too. But for now, I'll just do roles, just so you guys know that this will 100% work with roles. Okay, but like I said, you would want to save this to a database like MySQL or Mongoose. And then you would always want to check to see if data is valid, right? You want to make sure that the roles exist, and you also want to make sure the user has those roles, okay? Anyways, so once we have reacted, our job is done with this part over here. The next thing that we need to do is we need to actually listen to the message reaction add event. Now this callback function takes in the reaction object as well as the user. And we're going to go ahead and add the async keyword because, like I said, we're going to be using a lot of awaits on promises. Now, in order to actually get this message reaction add to work, we need to actually go and opt into partials. So inside the new client, inside the parentheses, we're going to pass in an object, and we're going to set the property partials to an array of all the partials we want to opt into. So we're going to opt into message as well as user. If you don't opt into these two, you're not going to be able to receive message reaction add events for uncached messages. So this will only work if the message has been cached by the bot. So if your bot goes offline and if it goes back online again, you will not be able to use previous approvals, okay, or you won't be able to react to previous messages that were not cached, okay. And yeah, so let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so now what we want to do is we basically want to make sure that we are reacting in the correct channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just destructure a property from reaction. I think it's just message, reaction dot message. Yep. So I'm going to destructure message. And I want to make sure that we are only listening to reactions with the thumbs up and thumbs down in the lobby channel, or the channel that you had set. So it's going to be the same channel as this one. So we can just simply do if message channel.id, compare that to this string over here. Like I said, this data would be fetched from a database. So right now we're only hard coding it. Now if you wanted it to work with multiple guilds, you would definitely use database. So you need to make sure you fetch the correct configuration. Okay, probably either when the bot starts up. Anyways, so let's go ahead and continue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and simply, if the ID is the same, then we're going to go ahead and check the emoji's name. So I'm going to destructure emoji. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll use a switch case this time on emoji.name. Might as well switch it up a little bit. And that was no pun intended. And I'm going to go ahead and do a case thumbs up. So if it's thumbs up, we want to do a couple things, okay? And I'll handle that in just a sec. If it's thumbs down, we want to, we're not really going to do much. We'll just say they have to re-verify, or their verification got denied, and then they have to be manually approved, okay? So if the case is thumbs up, what we want to do is we want to first check to see who's reacting to the message. We want to make sure that the person that's reacting to the message has at least one of these two roles. Okay, and these roles can be anything that you have set, okay, either in memory or in the database. So I think the best thing to do is to, let's see, we want to get the user, okay, but we don't actually want the user object, we want the member object, because we want to check for roles, permissions, anything that belongs to the guild itself. We need the guild member object. So what I can do is I can, let's see, I'll go inside here and I'll get the member. So I'm going to do await, and I'll do reaction dot guild, not guild. I'll do message dot guild because I need the guild object. Reaction object doesn't have the guild object, so do message dot guild dot members dot cache dot get, and then user dot id. Okay, and once we've done that, the next thing that we want to do is let's see. I think that should be okay. And so now we're going to go ahead and simply check to see if member.roles.cache, and we want to make sure that it has at least one of these roles in there. So since this is an array, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to create a helper function or a utility function. I'll call it validate roles, okay? And this will take in the member. And what it's going to do is we're basically going to go through every single, let's see, we're going to go through this array. And we want to make sure that for every single one of these roles, if the user has at least one of them. Okay, so the way we can do that is we can say, hey, look, return roles contains. So there are a couple ways that we can do this. But a simple thing that we can do is we could just loop through the roles array. So for example, I can do for const roll of roles if member, let's see, dot roles dot cache dot has role, we will return true. Okay, and else we'll return false. Actually, no, we'll return false outside the for loop. Okay, because we want to check to see if they might have another role. So basically, this is going to loop through this roles array, and we're going to check to see if the member.roles.cache, if it has the ID. Okay, because remember, these are IDs. We're iterating through this array. We're going through every single element, and each element is a string, which is an ID. Okay, and the member object has the roles property, which the roles property is a role manager, which has the cache, and then we're going to check to see if that cache, which is a collection, if it has the ID, the role ID. If it does, we're going to return true. So there's probably a better way to do this without using a for loop. So if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to leave it down below. So I'm going to go ahead and check to see if validate roles. We'll do member. So if this is true, then what we'll do is we'll continue. Now, if this is not, then we'll obviously not do anything else after. So if this is true, okay, and I'll simply say console log valid. Then what's after is we want to just give the user a role. So we'll need the default role to add to the user. So I'll give myself, let's see, let's do the verified role. I'll get the ID. And like I said, you would want to save this to database. If we have enough time, I'll use a database for this. I'll show you guys how to set up the database. So we might have some time. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but anyways. So let's go ahead and continue. So I think the next thing that I want to do is I want to pretty much, let's see. If the role is valid, then we want to give them the role. So roles, or not roles, yeah, roles.add, and then member role. Okay, now we can just pass in the ID, and this will actually throw an error if the role doesn't exist. Okay, but for now, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and leave the server. I'm going to join again, and let's see if it works. So right now, I don't have, I do have one of the roles. So let's just see if this works. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to also just send a message to a channel. And I'll do that inside, let's see, message.channel, send verified, or let me actually do this. Okay, awesome. So I'm on my other screen right now. I'm looking at my other Discord accounts, and I'm going to leave my server. And I'm going to go ahead and join. So let's join that. Okay, so we have the message. Clicking that arrow zone was verified. Why does it say me? Oh, whoops. It's trying to give, let's see. Oh, it's trying to give me a role. But we want to give the actual member the role itself. Okay, so yeah, I completely missed that. That was my bad. So basically, it was trying to give ourselves a role, which I don't think it did. Did it? Let me actually check my logs. This is missing access, so that's another problem. So we need to give our bots permissions. So I'll do that real quick. That's a simple mistake that can be fixed. I'll just give it manage role, so I think Discord bots has it. Okay, so let me do this again. So it should give us this role. Okay, it does. Perfect. Now, the problem with this is that we don't know who the actual user that needs to be verified. Now, what we can do is we can actually figure it out which user that needs to be verified. The way that we can do that is we can actually do a couple more checks, okay, more robust checks to make sure that this case is going to be good. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to do this. I am going to make this as simple as possible. I could actually just get the fields, and I can search for the user ID field. So for example, let me console log message.embeds. Okay, and there should only be one. And fields, this is going to be an array of all the fields. Okay, so let me just console log to you what this looks like. So let me leave the server and join again. So let's leave server and let's join. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and approve. Now we're going to fix that bug, don't worry. But look over here. So we have an array of all of the what's it called? The fields. So we can actually just simply do a quick search to get the user ID. Nothing crazy. So what I can do is I can simply do this. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Because member itself is the actual member, the authorized user that's going to react to approve the user, the user that joined. So we need to get the actual user ID from the embed, which is very simple. And I'll actually add one more thing real quick, but I'll do this first. So we want to get the user ID from the field, which we know it's an array. So first, let's do this. Let's actually add a more robust check. Let me actually make sure that the message also has an embed as well. Okay, so .length is greater than 0, or actually only has at least. It should always only have at least just one, or not at least. It should only have one embed. So if it has more, then we know that there's an issue. But if it has at least one, I keep saying at least, I mean only one, exactly one embed, then we're good. Okay, and let's see. So that should do the trick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the embed from message.embeds at subscript 0. And we can safely access this because we know that we've already done the check already. It has one. If it didn't, it wouldn't go inside this logic at all. It wouldn't go inside this if block over here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through every single field. So let me actually do this. Let me do this. Const user ID embed.fields. And I'm going to go ahead and search. So I think there's a method that I can use to search. Let's see. I think, what is it? Sum or find? Yeah, it's find. And this will return the actual object, okay, or undefined. So I want to go through every single field, and I want to check to see if field dot name is equal to user ID. And where I'm getting this literal from is because the name of the field is literal user space capitalization I and D. Okay, if this was something like, user ID, then I would check to see if the name is equal to user ID instead. Okay, whatever this is up here, this is what we're going to check against. And so if this is found, so if user ID is found, or actually let me call this user ID field. So if this is found, then that means we know that this embed is valid, and I can reference the value now. And then the value is going to be the ID, like the value of this field over here. Okay, so I think, let's see, I'm just gonna actually just destructure that, and okay, so the value we know is gonna be the ID, and let's just console log the value, and I'll show you how this works. Okay, and this is gonna work even if the bot restarts, or even if the user was verified. Is the bot even on? Nope, it's not even on. Oh, it is. For some reason, it's not picking that message up though. Let me try this again. Maybe something else is up. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here. Reacted. Okay, so you see how it says the ID, which is right over here. Perfect. So we know that that logic is gonna work just fine. Okay, so we can continue. So now we want to go ahead and get the actual member object. So const member to approve. And I'll get that from message.guild.members.cache. So the same thing that I'm doing up there. So await. And we'll do, let's see, message.guild.members.cache.gets value. Now here you must actually check to see if the member was found. The reason why we didn't do it up here is because we know that if the person is reacting to that message, then they have to be in the guild. Okay, they have to be in the guild. There's no way you can react to the message if you're not in the guild. Okay, but here we need to check to see if member to approve is truthy, because we can actually approve someone that might not be in the guild. Okay, and this will return undefined if they're not in the actual cache. Okay, so if member to approve, actually what I'll do is I'll do this. If no member to approve, we'll just simply say return message.channel.send. That user is not waiting for approval. Okay, and then we can continue on. And if it is truthy, we can just simply do await member to approve roles.add, and we can just simply do the member role. And now I'm going to do message.channel.send. Member to approve was verified or approved, whatever you want to call it. I'm actually going to change it to verification. Okay, and let's go ahead and try this out and let's see what happens. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and re-invite myself. So okay, so we are there. Yeti was verified. You can see that Yeti has the role. And there you go. That's literally it. Now, of course, if I do this again, it's going to keep giving the role. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to set a field right over here. Or not a field. I'm going to set a... Actually, yeah, I'll set a field. An easier thing to do would be setting a footer, but I'll just be consistent and do a field verified, and I'll set value to false. Okay, so now watch this. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the server again, and I'm gonna join. Should have sent the message. Hopefully the bots. Nope, the bot was probably not on at that time. Okay, so verified false. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, before I even do anything over here, I'm gonna go ahead and right up top over here, I don't want to make this look super ugly, so what I'll do is, let's see, message and ID, length, and I'll probably do, let's see, okay, so if we know message.embeds, the length is equal to 1, I'll get the embed up here instead of down over here, okay? So I don't redeclare it over and over again. And what I'll do is I'll check to see if embed.fields find, and we're gonna find the field that says verified, okay? So find field, the field dot name is equal to verified. So if this is found, we want to get the value. So actually, let me do this. This is like kind of looking like spaghetti code. So const verified status. That's a good name for it, verified status. And let's see. I would like to destructure this, but I can't because I've restructured it down there. Actually, if I do it up here, it probably shouldn't affect it. So I'll do this. If value, so if value, then we can just simply say message.channel.send that user was already verified, and we can just return. Actually, I'll just do this. And now, if this is false, right? If this is falsy, then it should just execute this. Now, I'm not sure if this will actually print out as it should print out as a boolean, because we set it as a boolean, so I think that should be okay. Let's just double check. And then right over here, once we approve them, what we need to do is we need to actually update the embed. So that shouldn't be super difficult. We need to actually get the message that we reacted to, which is right up here. Okay, we're going to get the embed, and we're going to let's see, edit field. There should be a fields property, I think, right? Actually, let me do this. User ID field. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is, I think I should be able to set the value. Yeah, I should be able to do that. Okay. So I'll probably have to, I probably can't destructure it because I need it for later. So verified field. Okay, there we go. That should be okay. So verified field is truthy, and verified field value is truthy as well. Then we'll just say that user was already verified. This is just to, you know, prevent like a null exception or null error from being thrown. And let's see what else. Okay, down here we need to update the value. I've never actually done this before. We'll set this to true. And let's see. I think after that we need to then do this. We need to actually, I think, is there a way to remove a field? I don't think so. Set field. I don't think we can edit fields. I think we might be able to remove fields. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't think we can actually, I'm not sure if we can actually edit fields. I know we can add fields. You know what, I'll try to, let me see if I can just add a field with the same name. And let's just see what happens. So I might not even need to do this. Let's just see what happens. So we add the field and we need to update the message. So wait message.edit. Alright, let's see what happens. I feel like it's probably not going to work, but we'll have to test this out to see what happens. Okay, so let's see. It's saying the user was already verified. Okay, so this is a string, so that's not good. So we need to compare it to true rather than like the actual Boolean value, because I don't think it's converting that. It's coercing that value for us. So let me do this again. Okay, there we go. It's saying false, but it seems like okay, good. If I do that, you see how it sets this to true, which is not good. And that, for some reason, it's still doing that because it's adding a new field every single time. Okay, that's bad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and remove the field, and I'm gonna just use a footer. I think that'll be easier. And I'll probably do, let's see. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll leave this alone. And instead of checking the field, the verify field, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to check to see if the field has a footer that says verified. If it doesn't, or actually I'll do this. Okay. And let's see. So we want to get the field, or not the field, the footer. So if, let's see, embed.footer.text is equal, or actually I'll do this. If embed .footer and embed footer, because there's a chance that the embed might not have a footer. So we want to make sure we're checking that's truthy first before we check footer.text. And I'm not using ES6, so I can't use like the question mark operator like I can do something like this. I think I can, but we'll just do this for now. So if it's equal to not verified, or I'm sorry, not verified, verified, that users are verified. Okay, good. But since this is not the case, the footer is not verified, then we're going to go into this logic, and instead of adding a field, we're just going to do embed.setFooter. And we'll set it to verified. We'll edit the embed, and that should do the trick. So once again, always try to find a workaround solution if you run into an issue. Okay, there we go. And now you see it says verified. So if I try to do this again, it's going to say that user was already verified, which is good. Obviously, you don't need to send the message. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the verification part. Obviously, and it just gives the role. Now, of course, if you do a thumbs down, it's still going to work for this. And let's see, why is that happening? I think that's because we have all of this logic here. So I could probably move this like inside here, maybe. I think that'll be okay. And we could probably go down over here and handle the disapproval, so the rejection. Okay, but that's not really the most important thing of this tutorial, because that can be whatever it is that you want. You can kick the user, you can ban the user, you can send them a DM, right? If you do a thumbs down, you just simply say, hey, look, user.send, you were not verified, reach out to a mod. And that's really it, okay? So that's not really that difficult. So this is pretty much it. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do we get it to work on multiple guilds? So, you know, I said earlier that I was only going to get this to work with one guild. I was like, you know what? I don't want to leave you guys with like a long video with like no additional value. So I'll show you guys how to do that right now. And we're actually going to use structures for this, which is going to be pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up a folder. I'll call it structures. Okay. And I'll create a database file. And we're going to be using MongoDB, my favorite database engine out there. NoSQL database engine. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new schema. Whoops. Hold on. Did I create in the right folder? I did. Okay. So I'm going to call this guild config. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to call it a guild config. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and first let me install Mongoose. Now you want to make sure you have MongoDB installed. Okay, there we go. So we have Mongoose installed. And now I'm going to go ahead and import that. Okay. And I'm going to create a new schema, guild config schema. And I'm only going to have the minimum required fields, so we will need the roles. The type is going to be an array. And I think I might need to use Mongoose, not schema types for this. And yes, we should make this required. Oh, I also need to set the guild ID as well. Type mongoose.schema types.string. True. Okay, and we should also make sure that this is unique. so there are no duplicates. Let's do approved or verified role, and that'll also be a string as well, and it will also be required. We will also need let's see, I think that's it. Oh, the channel. Let's do verification channel ID. Okay, and we will do that right there. And I think that should be it. So we have the guild ID. That's how we're going to know which configuration to fetch. We have the roles. We have the verified role. I think we have everything that we need. We don't need to save messages. We don't need anything else. So I think that's okay. All right, so let's go ahead and export this out. So we want to compile this schema down to an actual model, or yeah, database model. So we're going to say guild config schema. Okay, and that should do the trick. Okay, so now that we have Mongoose, our schema set up, let's go ahead and set up our structure. Now, if you guys don't know what structures are, I do have a video that explains what it is. I haven't done a video showing you guys how to use it in a real bot or a real Discord bot, but right now this will be the case. So I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. So we're going to create a new file. I'm going to call this, let's see, guild structure.js. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. And what we want to do is I'm going to import structures from Discord.js. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a simple class guild structure. And basically what this class is, it's going to actually have to extend the default guild structure. Actually, here's what I'm going to do instead. Module.exports, because we're not in TypeScript right now. So I think this should be okay. Because if you're using TypeScript, you need to make sure that you're casting the structure that you are extending to the actual extended structure. So if you're extending the guild structure, right, and if you called it, you know, guild structure custom or whatever, you need to make sure you cast the actual guild object into guild structure custom. Otherwise, it's going to not recognize the methods that you added or the fields that you added to the extended structure. So in JavaScript, though, we don't have to worry about that. We're going to call structure.extend, extend guild, and we're going to basically, this parameter over here is the class that we're going to be extending. Okay. Basically, what happens underneath the hood with the Discord.js library is it sees that it's going to destructure guild. We want to destructure guild, so it's going to get the actual guild instance, or not instance, sorry, the guild class itself, right? The actual prototype, and it's going to allow, it's going to basically extend it and then return it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to declare a class or create a class, call it a guild structure, and we're going to extend, and you want to make sure you're extending whatever this parameter name is. That's the actual class itself that's going to be extended. So you can call this literally guild with the lowercase g, and you would need to make sure you extend that as well. Okay. Now for the constructor, it's going to take in, and I'll show you what properties it will take in. And the way you can figure it out is you go to the structure that you're extending, and you look at the constructor over here, and you basically want to pass in the same parameters. So right over there, it took in the client as well as data, so that's what we're going to pass in. And you want to make sure you're calling the superclasses constructor. When you are extending classes, you need to make sure that before you set your own properties, you need to, you know, call the superclass constructor. So we pass in client as well as data. And then now I can set my own properties like this dot whatever. Okay, that should be fine. And let's just console log guild structure. And the last thing we need to do is we need to return guild structure, because remember, we're inside a function. We're basically inside a function that's going to extend the guild, and it's going to return that extended class. That's what it does. Now, in order for this structure to actually work, you need to make sure you're requiring it before you create the client instance, okay? So we're going to do that right over here. Actually, right over here. Require structures, guild structure. Now, if I go ahead and restart, you're gonna see that it's gonna print out guild structure, and I think my guild, my bot is only in one guild, so that's the reason why it's only printing out once. If it was in 2 guilds or 3, it would print out 2 or 3 times. If it was in like 10 guilds, it would print out 10 times. It's gonna do it for every single guild that the bot is in. Okay, but that's pretty much it. So now the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually set up the well, first what we need to do is we need to actually get the guild configuration to be a field for guild structure. So we're gonna need to call the database, but the problem is we don't actually have any data in the database because we haven't had the user set up anything. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Let's see, I'll have the user set up a simple command. I'll do that right over here. Message. Okay. And of course, you just want to ask the user, what kind of properties they want set up, right? So, for example, if they what channel do they want the verification channel to be? What roles and what would be the default role? Okay. So, for example, let's do this message. If message dot content to lowercase, if it's equal to setup. Okay. Like I said, I'm not using a command handler, but the whole logic, the whole concept is going to be the same thing. Okay, so if the command is equal to setup, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ask them, give me the verification channel to be used. So we're going to get them to send us a message. So we need to use await messages. So const message await message.channel.await messages. This is going to allow the user to send a message, and the bot will process it, and it will return it, and it will return it to this message variable. So I'm going to go and declare a filter function or a filter variable. This is going to be a function that takes in the message parameter. It's going to take in the message that the bot is processing, and it's going to test it against a predicate. So if let's see, if message.author.id is equal to message.author.id, we want to make sure that the same person that's using this command is the same person that is we want to make sure the person that is giving us the ID of the channel is the same person that is using the command, invoking the command. So that's why we need this filter. So I'm going to pass it in, and we're going to pass in await messages options, and the max is going to be 1. And we'll give a time of 60 seconds. And any errors, we'll just set that to time. Okay, so that's going to be it for await messages for that part. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask them for the roles. Okay, well actually let's ask them for the approved role. Give me the verified role to apply. And we're going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to simply do this, but this time I'm going to call this verified role message. I'm going to call this verified channel message. I'm not going to do any validation of the channel. I think you guys can do that on your own, because I don't want to like prolong this video. But like I said, make sure you guys verify that the channel actually exists. Make sure the role actually exists. It's not that difficult, but I'll let you guys do that. Okay, like I said, if you pass in something that's invalid, it's not going to work. Okay, so make sure you validate it. And the last thing we're going to do is give me the let's see, the authorized roles. Oops. That may use this feature. And we'll call this authorized roles message. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to basically make sure that let's see. Let me do this. So all these are message objects, okay? Or actually, sorry, they're not message objects. They're actually collections. So since we're only getting one, we want to make sure we're calling first. And instead of wait over here, it's not a wait. It added it automatically. But basically, I'm wrapping this whole statement between the parentheses and calling dot first. So I know it looks a little bit ugly. Okay. What I can actually do, though, is I can actually do this. Let me go over here. And let me actually, because I'm using the same options anyways, so let me just declare that once and then reuse it again, so the lines don't look super ugly. There we go, it looks a little bit better. And we're gonna go ahead and wrap this in between parentheses and call dot first, because remember these are collections of messages, okay? And you want to get the first message. And we can also get the content as well, so I can do that directly. But like I said, you want to make sure you validate all of your fields. You want to make sure that let's see, verified channel ID. You want to make sure that this is a valid ID. You want to make sure these are roles ID, verified role IDs. These are going to be multiple. Give me the verified role. Oh, sorry, whoops. What am I doing? Sorry, verified role ID and then authorized roles message or roles ID. Okay, feature separated by commas. Okay, so to reiterate what I was saying, in case you guys got a little bit confused, basically what I'm doing is I'm referencing that content. And like I said, you want to make sure you're validating the verified channel ID. You want to make sure you check to see that this is a valid channel in the guild. Same thing with the role, and same thing with these roles as well. And verified role is the role to give to the user. Authorized roles are the roles that a user must have in order to react to the message. Okay, and now what I'm going to do next, assuming that everything is valid, okay, assuming everything is good, assuming we validate everything, what's next is we want to save everything to a database. Now, this itself over here, authorized roles ID, this is a string. We want to populate it. We want to save it as an array. So what I'll do is I'll probably just like split it by regular expression, because we told them to separate everything by commas. So it's their fault if they, pass in an invalid role ID. But like I said, if you validate correctly, you should never save invalid role IDs to the database. So what I'll do is const authorized roles. That's going to equal to authorized roles ID. It splits, and I think this regular expression should work just fine. I think it's asterisk. Whoops. And what this is going to do is it's going to basically split by the comma and any trailing white space. So I'll console log it real quick so I can show you guys. So for example, if I type something like 1, 2, 3 and then comma 4, 2, 3, 4, these are still going to be two valid roles. Even if I do a space or any number of spaces after, it's going to eat up all this white space and split everything by that regular expression. So these two would be rules. I'll console log it so you guys can see what it looks like. Before I do anything else, let me just continue, because I don't want to go too far and have you guys feel confused. So let's first do setup. So verification channel, and let's get the ID of the verified role. And let's just say the only roles that we want to be able to use this are the admin role as well as the moderator role. And you can see now, let's see, we seem to have this issue right over here with this extra space. I'm not a fan of that, so I think I might need to do a plus, I think. Let me try this again. I'm not the best with regular expressions, so that's why I need to trial and error. Okay, that definitely did not work. I think maybe what I could do is I could just like end it off by like trimming every white space. It's not really the cleanest solution, but screw it. Screw it, Let's do that. We're gonna have to do this again. So, all right, there we go. That's better. It's not the best solution, but I'm sure there's a better regular expression that works. I'm just not the greatest with regular expressions, so apologies for that. Maybe if I had the G flag, I don't think that will actually... Let me actually try that real quick. Let me try that. Our bot will, there we go. right, let's see if that works. Yeah, it didn't work. So there's probably a better way to do this. I'm not sure if you guys know. Leave a comment down in the description, and I'll take a look at it. But anyways, this should work. We're just basically mapping the array and then trimming all the white space. Okay, so now we want to save this to the database. So we're going to import our guild config. We're going to require from the schemas guild config file. Now let me move this up here. There we go. And I'll simply just do this. So const config equals await guild config.create. Okay. And we want to save the guild ID. So that's going to be message.guild.id. We want to save the verified channel ID. So I can actually just pass everything the way it is, because we named our variables the same as the fields. So I don't have to do something like verified channel ID is equal to that. Okay. This is just a shorthand way to do it. For, let's see, roles. I'll probably rename this to roles just to make it simple. Or, no, wait. This one right here. There we go. And then the verified role, I will leave it like this. Okay, and that should do the trick. Okay. And I'm going to wrap everything inside a try catch. So let's do that. So probably go right over here. I'm going to catch message.channel send something went wrong. Console out the error as well. Okay, cool. So now, let's see. I think this should be good. Let's check this out. Okay, so let me go and do setup. Let's get the verification channel. So let me just verify. Yep, this is the correct channel. This should be the correct rule. Like I said, assuming that everything is valid. Something went wrong. So it seems like, let's see, verification channel ID is required. So maybe we passed in something incorrect. Let me double check. Verification channel ID. Oh, I said verified channel ID. Sorry about that. Okay, now before I do anything else, let me just make sure that everything else is good. Because I feel like there was something else that was missing. I felt like there was something else that was the issue. But I'm not too sure right now. So we'll have to leave like this. Okay, let's try this again. So I think it'll be okay. Let's do this. Verify role, and then let's do that. Okay, so it didn't send a message. So that's good. Now I'm gonna go inside my database. Oh, you know what it is? We actually didn't. Yeah, I realize what it is now. We actually didn't connect to the database. That's what I was thinking first, but I forgot about it a little just now. We need to connect to the database. We're not connected to it right now. So let's do that. Okay, damn. I'm looking at the timer right now. It's literally a 1 hour video. Jesus. Alright, so what I'll do is mongoose.connect, MongoDB, and we'll do localhost. And we're using the default port, so I don't have to specify the port. And I'll just say verification bot. And we'll do use neural parser, otherwise it's going to tell us deprecation warnings, and then unified topology. Those are pretty annoying, but we'll just leave that there for now. Okay, so this should, yeah, there we go. Now you can see that we are connecting to the database, so that's good. And let's do this again for like the 5th time. Let's go ahead and do that there. Okay, so nothing went wrong. Let's show DBs again. Now you can see we have verification. We have 2 for some reason. We have verification and verification bot. I think it may have actually created by accident because NodeMon restarted it and it created that. But I think the one that we want is verification bots. So let's use verification bots, or maybe use both. Who knows? Let's see. Show tables. db.guild configs not find. There you go, we have our data here. Okay, perfect. So I'm not sure what the other one was. Yeah, this was the other one. Okay, use verification bot. Oops. Okay, there we go. So that's good. Let me make this pretty. Okay, so we have our data. That's good. So now what we need to do next is we're going to go inside guild structure, and we're going to go ahead and fetch the database for the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and import guild config. So const guild config is required database schemas guild config. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to actually reference guild config, and I'm going to go ahead and say find one, and we want to find by ID. Now, how do we get the ID? Well, this data object actually will give you the guild ID. If you console log it, it's going to give you this object over here, and we can get the ID from there. Now, I'm honestly just going to see if I can destructure this, maybe. Yeah, that should be better. So, because we only need ID anyways. Oh, let's see. Data is not defined. Oh, actually, we actually need data. All right, that's fine. That's fine. So what I'll do is I'll just reference data.id. So we're gonna go ahead and do guild config.find one guild ID data.id like this. So this is going to search our MongoDB database. It's going to search for the a document from guild config, and it's going to search for a document based on that guild ID. If it's found, good. So we're going to do .then, and let's do value. So if this is found, I don't think it actually throws an error if it's not found. So for example, if let me console log value. So we do have to do a check, and let me just catch the error. So you're going to see that it's going to find the value. It already found it already over here. Okay, but the bot's going to restart again, and you can see it looks for it, right? It's there. Now let me actually do this. Let me do 1, 2, 3. Let me just see if this, okay, it says null. So we have to do a check. So let's do this. Well, I mean, we can actually just do this. We can just do this dot, what do I want to do? Config equals value. That's fine. And we always want to make sure we're checking to see if config is truthy in order before we do anything else. Okay. So right over here, this is perfectly fine. So we're setting an instance field, this.config, to whatever the values from the database, which is good. Okay. And okay, so now we're done with the structure. If you guys don't understand what the point of this is, basically, instead of having to do something like, client.configs equals new collection, instead of, not Mongoose collection, Discord.js collection, instead of having to search the entire database and then map everything into here, we can use structures to define instance fields for every single guild. Okay, so it's basically it's basically like adding new fields to already existing classes. So it's much better than just defining a bunch of different properties on your client. So now if I want to get the actual configuration, instead of doing client.configs.get and then passing the guild ID, I can do literally just the guild object itself, because literally this is just a guild instance. Okay, it's an instance of the superclass guild, and we can reference config, and if that's truthy, then we know that they have a config. So now watch this. What I'm going to do is, instead of passing in this hard-coded value now, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and check member.guild. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead and leave the server, and I want you guys to pay attention to member.guild.config. Now, like I said, if you're using TypeScript, you need to make sure you cast this to a guild structure like that. Not like that, like this, if you're using TypeScript. Okay, and let's go ahead and let me invite myself again. I'm going to go ahead and leave, and I will join the server now. Okay, so look at the console, and it says cannot send messages to this user. Not sure why that is why it's doing that, but you can see right over here. Now let me actually check my code again. I'm not sure did I console log something here? I didn't. Okay, good. So that console log is coming from over here. That's good. It's coming from right over here. So we know that it's good. Now, did I send a message to the user? Where did I send the message to? Oh, that's coming from right over here. let me actually do this. I need to do one more check. I apologize for not doing this sooner. We need to make sure that we're ignoring bot reactions, okay? Let's see. Okay, good. Okay, so now we know that the config is working upon the structure. So we're going to go ahead and check to see if member.guild.config. Then only we're going to do this, okay? If they don't have a configuration, then we're not going to do this then. So let's try this again, and you're going to see that let's do this. So let's leave the server. I'm going to join, and you're going to see it's going to send the message, and it's only doing it because this config is present. Okay, now let me go ahead and do one more thing. Let me go ahead and, do I have another server that I can use? Let's see, USA server. Okay, let me use this server real quick. Let me really quickly invite my bot to the server. Okay, and watch this. So let me just make sure I give my create an admin role. Okay, so watch this. So if I go ahead and if I get my other account to join this server, so let me do that real quick. Let me create an invite. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to join that server. You're going to see it's not going to do anything, right? And it doesn't throw any error. That's good. It's not doing anything because the guild config is not present. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And if I go back to the structure and if I console log value, our bot is now in 2 guilds, so it should log twice. And you can see it logs guild structure 2 times inside this constructor. And it logs the found value for the first guild, and then the second guild it says null because we don't have a configuration yet. So we can set that up on the server too. Okay, so now we're almost done, don't worry. What we need to do next is if the config is present, which we know it is, if it's inside this logic, or if it's sending the message that we know it is, then we're going to go ahead and get the, what was it called again? The, let's see, the verified, not verified role, the channel, yeah, the channel, verification channel ID, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do const verification channel ID, member.guild.config, and verification channel ID. I can actually just destructure this actually. Okay, there we go. And I can go and do that. Okay, now let's go ahead and leave the server again. Okay, I'm going to go back to, yep, Arizona server. I'm going to leave the server. This is the one that we have our configuration set up. And let me make sure my bot is on. Okay, good. Now it's going to send the message. Okay. And it was able to send the message because it found the correct channel. Okay, if the channel was not found, it wouldn't have been able to send that message at all. Okay, that's good. So now that we know this is working, so I don't have to leave the hard-coded value anymore. Let's go down over here. Let's do the same thing. Okay, we're only going to do everything in here only if the configuration is enabled. So I'll probably have to do this. If message.guild.config, if no message.config will return. Just to make this simple. You know what I'll do? I'll do this. If either one of these is true, yeah, we'll return. Okay, awesome. Okay, now we know that this will work if they have a config. Okay, so over here, we're going to check to see if the ID is equal to the verification channel ID. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. But this time, instead of member.guild.config, it's going to be message.guild.config. Okay, and we're going to get the verification channel ID, compare it to this instead. And we need to go down right over here. Right over here. And we're comparing it with roles up here. We're going to get rid of that. And let's see, let's go over, where is it? Okay, so right over here, this is where we're going to need to get the actual roles that are saved in the DB. So I'm going to pass in a new parameter. Okay, and I'm going to fetch the, not fetch, but I'm going to reference the object. Okay, this part over here, roles, we're going to pass in this array. So let's see, right over, where are we calling the function validate roles? We're going to pass in, let's see, message. I'm actually going to destructure more values. So let's do, let's see, roles, and then verified role, because we'll need them later anyway, so might as well. So I'm going to pass in roles into validate roles function. Okay, and that's going to return true or false. If it returns true, then it's valid. And then after, we're going to, let's see, we want to give the user the role, so that's going to be verified role. Okay, so no more member role. We got rid of that. We're going to get rid of it now. I know we're doing too much all at once, but don't worry. That's really all it is. So let's test this out, and let's see if it still works. And we're going to set up the stuff on the other server. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave the server right now, and I shall join. So it sends the message. Okay, everything is good. Let's pay attention to the account. Yet he was verified. Perfect. Okay, we have access to the rest of the server, and it says that user was verified. Okay, awesome. Awesome. That's literally all it is, and it's using data from the database, which is good. Okay, and the reason why it's throwing that error is because we have our DMs disabled right now on the other account. Okay, so now obviously let me go back to my other server over here, USA server, and I'm going to go ahead and create an invite. Let me leave, and let me join again. On this server, it's not going to work, okay? But we can get it to work. We can set it up. So let's go ahead and create a channel. Let's just call this lobby. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Setup. Give me the verified role to apply. Let's do this. Let's do approved. Okay. Let's get the ID. And who should be able to use the role, or who should be able to approve? Actually, I'm gonna do a couple more tests before I continue, but we're gonna make it so that if you are, let's see, approver role. I want to create a new role. Let's screw that. And actually, I'm gonna name it mod. All right. Let's give myself the orange color. Okay. So only the mod can use it. Okay. And let's see. I think that was it. Okay. I think that was it. If I go into the database, you're going to see we have two configurations. We have one for this ID, or this guild, and one for the other guild. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and rejoin the server right now, and you're going to see that it should work. It didn't work, and the reason why is because we probably don't have permissions, I think. Let's see. Why did that not work? Should have worked. Oh, you know why? It's because we created the configuration, but we didn't update the structure. We didn't update the structure. That's why. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Yes, I completely forgot about that. My apologies. So, right over here. Yep, right over here. Okay. We need to get the config object. Okay, and I think this itself is a document. So I can actually do this. Message.guild.config equal config. And that should do the trick. That's the reason why. Because right now when we joined the server, it was trying to get the config, but it was null, remember, right? Because we had initially started up the bot, it was null when it first started. So we need to update config in order for this to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just drop this from the database right over here. Okay, so db.remove. Hopefully, I think this is the correct query. db.deletes. Oh wait, I think it's db.guildconfigs.remove. There we go, perfect. Okay, so let's restart the bot. Let's make sure that there's only... before you can see that over here, there's two. Now there's only one in null. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the setup again. Okay, there we go. And let's see. So it was created. Okay, good. And if we look at the database, we can see it's there. So we have this right over here. This is being logged. Okay, that's good. Now let's make sure that it's being updated and it's going to work. So if I leave without having to restart the bot, right? I'm not restarting the bot, but if I leave the server and if I join again, there you go. Perfect. Okay, now I should be able to approve because the role that I set was, what was it? That was a mod, right? It was the mod role, I think, right? This one right over here. And that was the mod role, I think. Yes. Now, since I don't have that role, right? Since I don't have that role, it shouldn't even just verify them, right? See, it doesn't verify them. Okay, but now I'm going to go ahead and give myself the mod role. And there you go. We have verified them. Okay? So this works on multiple different guilds, which is awesome. And that's going to be pretty much it for this whole tutorial. So I know it was very long. So if you made it through, feel free to leave a like. It helps me out a lot. But that's pretty much it for this whole video. Like, you know, there was a lot to cover and we did it all from scratch. We went through all of the logic, the errors, everything. So hopefully this video helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace.